Sure. Hi, I'm Scott Thackrey. I'm an exploration geoscientist or geoscience advisor in TotalEnergies based in Houston, Texas. I did my bachelor's of geology in Aberdeen and quickly followed by a PhD in kind of like planetary geoscience
Hmm.
shortly after that. So where I did kind of like a part-time PhD, part-time research assistant. So I was able to do lecturing and field course teaching and stuff like that. So then after that, I kind of started a fairly long career now, probably around about almost 20 years, I guess, in total, in exploration geoscience. So yeah,
Interesting.
that's me.
And why
Yeah.
Aberdeen? Why did you choose Aberdeen for your university degree?
Well, it's completely by accident, really, in all honesty. I grew up in the Highlands of Scotland, so just northwest of Inverness, and my ultimate dream was to be a pilot in the Royal Air Force.
Hmm.
And essentially, when I was 17, I went through the selection process, the Royal Air Force.
Hmm.
Passed all the tests really well. Everything was okay, but they said I was too young. So they said, go away for a year and, get some life experience, then come back. And my dad says, well, you're not hanging around in the house, go to university. So
Hmm.
it never even crossed my mind, to be honest. It was completely by accident. And so the thing that I was really good at school was like physics and mathematics and geography. So particularly physical geography. So I was in the job center and they were helping me select a course. I was in the clearing basically time,
Hmm.
so it was very short notice. And they said, well, University of Aberdeen has one of the best geoscience schools in the whole of the UK. Why didn't you go try it out? And I was like, okay. So I had no intention of doing anything at university. I wanted to join the military. So that's how I ended up in Aberdeen. I mean, close to home, and yeah, one of the best geoscience schools in the UK. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Aberdeen. So
That's so interesting, so unusual. And
yeah,
what are some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen?
favorite memories from Aberdeen. I think it's just the people. There's something really special about geology, and I think anyone who's going to watch this or listen to this interview who's involved in geoscience will 100% agree with me. Is that geology is a physical science, but as far as I'm concerned, it's also a social science because
Hmm.
you develop really strong bonds with people during your time when you do the degree. I think it's because you're out in the field together. You do these field courses together. You're working collaboratively quite often as well. So you kind of like form a bit of a team.
Hmm.
And in our class, we were incredibly strong together as a friendship group. And I think that's kind of what stood out for me when I was doing an undergrad at Aberdeen was really that kind of strong relationships that you form. It was really good fun. So yeah,
Interesting. And also during your PhD time in Aberdeen, you work for NASA as a field geologist and went to Canadian Arctic. Could you please tell us more
yeah,
about it?
yeah, sure. So my PhD was focused on understanding the impact ejecta generated. So that's the material that's expelled up into the atmosphere and into space when a meteorite or comet impacts the planetary surface. So that's why I was kind of like doing my research on. And at the time, one of my supervisors, Professor John Parnell, was heavily involved in what they called the Houghton Mars Project, which is a NASA-run and Canadian Space Agency run research project up in the Canadian Arctic. So
Hmm.
it's a very large, well, very large. It's like about a 32-kilometer diameter impact crater on
Hmm.
Devon Island in the Arctic. And up there, they use that basically as a test bed for a lot of the Martian rover
Hmm.
kind of projects because you have permafrost. There is no vegetation, so it's all rocky, everything like that.
Hmm.
So it's like kind of perfect in terms of testing, like the drilling rigs, for example, that are on the rovers that you can still see being used now, as an example. as well as also kind of high bandwidth communication systems. So they were testing that kind of stuff, and also medical system. It was a massive project. So kind of my involvement up there was to look at the impact ejecta associated with the Horton Mars project. So I was very lucky to have 3 years up there, 3 field seasons, sorry. So that's basically 3 months, 3 months a year,
Wow.
3 times. It was great. The people you meet up there is was incredible. I mean, these were, JPL scientists. You have research and academics from numerous universities globally, all with their own special area of expertise,
Hmm.
and it was just fascinating. And I even had the opportunity to go out in the field with, Chris Hadfield, the
Hmm.
astronaut. So I managed to go out in the field with
Wow.
him, and he was an amazing guy. It's quite funny actually because I said, "Oh, Chris, if you don't mind, I'll need to get a signed photograph of you." And we were in the middle of nowhere. We just stepped off a helicopter, and
Wow.
he carried these photographs with him, and he said, "There you go." I
Amazing.
was like, "Yeah, well, I meant when we get back to camp,
That's
not now."
amazing.
But yeah, it was fast. It was absolutely amazing. I think in terms of geology, it was definitely one of the high points of my career to date was being involved in that research.
Hmm.
It's fantastic, absolutely amazing, and it was actually the only reason why, because I was in the University Air Squadron during my undergrad. And it was the only reason why I left the Air Force
Hmm.
was to pursue this PhD because I figured, well, my ultimate aim is to be an astronaut. And I know a lot of people laugh at me when I say that, and even my family. But I saw a line of sight to success that could be an opportunity, and that's why I did this PhD.
Hmm.
Because I figured, and yeah, so well, that didn't turn out to happen, but I took the risk anyway, and yeah.
That's so interesting. And if you had to summarize your career journey, what would be the key milestones?
So I would say, well, first of all, the if I look at my life as a river and some of the branches that had happened, so I guess when I was 17, 18, the branch between going to the military or going to university. So there's the universities. Going to university was the first one. Secondly, is taking the decision to leave the Air Force and go do my PhD.
Hmm.
Okay. Then at the end of my PhD was the decision to end up going into the oil and gas industry. Um, Thanks to some of the strong network I developed at the university, particularly yeah. So there's a lot of people that I became friends with at the university who had strong
Hmm.
ties to the industry, and that really, it really opened up my eyes to exploration
Hmm.
because whether you're doing space exploration, like
Hmm.
exploration of Mars or Moon, or exploration on Earth, they're both the same things. You're looking at really large scale geological processes
Hmm.
down to the finest scale geological processes. And that's what I've kind of taken with me throughout my career. So that there are some of the big milestones in my life is these
Hmm.
branches in the river. And now I'm just flowing along this exploration in oil and gas river just now. And as I said to you earlier, I've just made another big milestone decision that,
Hmm.
I'm going to start my own consultancy company and coming back to Aberdeen this summer, where I'll be working with a small exploration company called Eco Atlantic. So that would be my next big milestone, and that professionally at least. And then I've got my family side, obviously meeting
Of
my
course.
wife, having my kids, and all the good things that come with that as well. So.
Interesting. And how does your typical day looks like now? Or in your previous role?
So yeah, the a typical day is it can be quite variable. It depends on what you do. So I work in a branch of the business called New Ventures, which is
Hmm.
essentially looking for new opportunities for the company to grow in. So I can do anything from what we call regional syntheses work. So that's where you look at an entire basin. You do kind of what they call play-based exploration, which is where you're looking for certain kind of reservoirs, source rock,
Hmm.
seal, kind of like combinations where we think we can find hydrocarbon accumulations on a very large scale. or I can be doing something called, farm-in evaluations, where we go to other companies and evaluate opportunities that they're trying to get rid of equity and and farm out and get money off of other companies, basically. So essentially, my kind of day can be very variable, but
Mhm.
I'm working. Typically, I'll be working with really talented geoscientists in a kind of multi-faculty team with geophysicists, geologists, for example, petroleum systems experts, all that kind of stuff. Like, so we work together collaboratively to deliver these kind of
Mhm.
technical assessments. Once we've done a technical assessment, we then go to senior leadership to basically
Mhm.
present our recommendation as a technical team. So at the end of the day, we like my kind of role is, synthesizing all this work together from all the different specialty groups and then coming up with an investment kind of recommendation.
Mhm.
So do we go here? Where do we go? If we're new to a basin, what area of the basin do we need to go to? What kind of level of exposure as a company do we need to kind of exercise in these kind of certain areas? It's quite diverse. It's quite
Mhm.
diverse.
And you work
Yeah.
across so many different countries. What are the key differences between working in some of them in comparison to others in terms of, well, oil and gas industry and as a
Yeah.
geoscientist?
So I think it's a really good question. And one thing I've learned is the importance of cultural diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found is that, different governments, different colleagues, they all work differently depending on the culture that they come from, right? So it's one thing I've learned to really appreciate is the difference in culture and the way that different cultures think and approach different problems, or the way that you conduct business in different countries. It's very, very different. Like you doing business in the UK is very different from doing business in like Sao Tome, for example. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So it's having that appreciation, I think, and that's what I'll take with me, throughout my life is,
Mm-hmm.
being aware and respectful of different cultures. So
Interesting. That's a good answer. And what would be your advice for students who also want to become geoscientists, geologists, and how they can maybe land their first job, how to stand out?
how to stand out. So, I do a lot of coaching for people externally from the industry and internally, both in my company and other companies as well. And the people who tend to succeed are those who are very self-motivated
Mm-hmm.
and those who have an interesting background. So, I'll give you an example. So, like, because I do recruitment as well. Like, when you interview someone, it's like having an interesting facet to their life. Like, I had one candidate a long, long time ago who said, I used to work in a restaurant on an island and I used to have to row a boat to the island every day. I was like, well, that's quite interesting. It's like, it's just simple things like
Yeah.
this, but it can be anything, it's like, it can be someone who does, mountaineering in South America or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, that really shows an extra dimension to the character. So, when it comes to coaching people who are like people who are frustrated that they're not progressing, I try and encourage them to be more self-motivated in terms of understanding exactly what they want. Like you need to know what you want in life to be able to achieve. So you need to always have a goal in your mind of like, I have this goal, I'm going to go for it. It's kind of similar to me when I did my PhD. I wanted to be an astronaut. I'm going to go for it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You just come up with another plan of attack and then you progress with that. Okay. So in terms of like being successful, it's having these goals in your mind, having alternative plans as well to like or a strategy of what happens if this doesn't work out. So and when you do that, you kind of take control of your career. So, what I found through coaching is that by helping people develop this personal strategy on how they're going to achieve their ultimate goals, it gives them energy then and a very clear, focused mind to approach senior leadership of, can you give me more responsibility in this area? Or can I go do external conferences? Can I present my work and stuff like that? Being more visible and developing a network, for example, stuff like that, really.
Mhm.
I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if it did, but I was talking more about the how to be successful, I guess. I think that's one of the key ones. What was your main question again? I forgot what the
How to
first thing
stand
was.
out and get this first job for students?
Yeah, okay, so that would be it basically. So be unique. In interviews, be sure to like share something like personal, like a personal story that you find exciting and that you're very proud of. The reason why is when you do something that when you talk about something you've achieved, like say if you do, I'll do come back to mountaineering again, and where you bagged all the Munros of Scotland, say,
Hmm.
because you're personally proud of that, it shows it, you start to be energetic about that, and the interviewer will see that as well. So it's about having these personal experiences that you're happy about, that you're proud of, whether it's like maybe playing for the university rugby team, as an example, and you start to then really open up. And if you have a good interviewer, this is some of the first questions they'll ask because what it does is it makes the person relax. It gets the energy levels flowing and it makes the whole thing a lot more of a positive experience. And it's something I kind of try to do in interviews
Hmm.
as well. So that would be like one of the main things is really standing out. The degree and your grade is simply just to get your foot in the door
Hmm.
of a job opportunity. Okay, it's like when you're at secondary school, you do your GCSEs or your standard grades and your hires and stuff. All that does is open doors, and then you go through. So, like if you do well at secondary school, you can then get into university. When you do well at university, you can then get your foot in the door just to even apply for a job.
Hmm.
But once you get your foot in the door and you have that conversation, then you're able to basically open up and really share your personal experiences, your personal ambition. And this is where the vision in mind comes. Like, where is it you want to
Hmm.
go and what do you want to achieve? Okay. So yeah, that's what kind of like in my experience, that's what really marks kind
Hmm.
of like attractive candidates versus unattractive candidates. So,
Thank you very much. That's a great advice. And what would you say was the proudest moment in your career?
oh, good question. Proudest moment. Um, you know, I think I work with some really amazing teams,
Mm.
and there's been several examples, here in Houston. I worked on the East African Rift in Maersk Oil. I think they're probably some of the big achievements in my life as a team. But my proudest moments is when, as a team, I know that we deliver the best technical evaluation possible. So
Mm.
it's really the team delivery that I'm proud of, not individual achievements.
Hmm.
So, and like seeing everyone happy and like thinking, oh, that was amazing. Like we did such a good job there, and I've got a few examples in my mind, but it's really the team delivery that,
Hmm.
you go home, you get like when as a team, you got goosebumps. You're like, yeah, that was amazing. We've really cracked it. For example, I'll give one example, sorry. On the East African Rift syntheses, when I worked in Maersk Oil, we had a team of like 6 or 7 of us. And we didn't really know a lot about the region. And we took like two years to really understand and reconstruct the geological history, and we nailed it. It was amazing. It was such a good feeling that you've solved such a
Hmm.
complex problem as a team, and you've delivered, and for a fact you've delivered the best evaluation you could have ever had. And that's good. That's the satisfaction. It's cracking and solving the puzzle as a team
Yeah.
because that's what geology is all about, really. Geology is a puzzle that you need to solve. You need to understand the uncertainty of that solution that you come up with and the risk associated with it as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Sorry, that was a very long-winded
It's
answer,
very
but yeah,
interesting. Thank
it's
you very much. And two more questions. Um, are there any books or podcasts you would recommend for our students?
Um, well, I personally like Diary of a CEO. I think
Hmm.
that's one of my favorite podcasts. I like the diversity of topics in that. Um, And both the reason why I like it for is because it covers like current affairs quite a lot, personal health, which I think is really important, both mental health in particular, I'd say, finance, which I think as a young graduate, having an appreciation of personal finance is really important to set yourself up well for the future. Okay. It's one of my regrets in life that I didn't have this knowledge of how to deal with personal finance early on enough in my life. Because I know right now I'd be I'd probably be a millionaire by now. And I'm not a millionaire yet, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to be. But yeah, not having that personal finance side of things, like even just putting like £100 into like an S&P index fund or something like that when I was young, and it would I would have had a lot more money now. Just these simple things that you can do to start developing your own financial wealth. Because
Hmm.
once you have financial wealth and security, you start to feel less pressure in your mind, and you start to be able to focus on your work and focus on your career a lot more and focus on your family and stuff like that. Okay, and focus on your hobbies. So that would be for me, I think, a really important aspect. It's nothing to do with academia. It's more like your personal welfare that you need to focus on. So yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why I like the Diary of a CEO. I think
Hmm.
if I was going to recommend one podcast, it would be that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self? Maybe another advice. Or maybe you would have
Um,
done something differently at university or something like that.
yeah, it's I had this discussion in a bar the other day actually,
Hmm.
whether we what regrets in life I have. I don't have regrets. More like I'd be interested to see how my life panned out if I didn't leave the Air Force and I stayed in the
Hmm.
University Air Squadron and I eventually went on to do that because that was my ultimate goal, really.
Hmm.
But when I had these like different life opportunities present themselves and different paths in my mind it could have
Yeah.
gone, I'd be interested to see in a parallel dimension where I took the decision to stay with the University Air Squadron and pursue through to a career in the Air Force. Because yeah, that would be the only thing that I would like to go back and see. I and also like I've made a few very stupid personal decisions in life, and we go through life, we hurt people sometimes, and obviously it'd be nice to go back in time and not hurt people, like, don't say that thing that you said that hurt their feelings or something like that. There's a few examples that come to mind. So maybe some rash decisions or times of selfishness that I probably could have undone, but it's only through life experience that
Hmm.
you reflect upon these things and then you realize, I shouldn't have done that and I could have done that differently. So yeah, but I think that's just part of growing up. I mean, I'm sure you've made your mistakes. I'm sure you've said things to people that you wish you never said. And yeah, I think that's another aspect that I'd probably go back in time and change. So yeah.